Hi, everybody. My name is Dana Rogers. I am the secretary and lobbyist for the South Dakota Bow Hunters. I just wanted to do a little video here to match my fellow board of director member, Rob Mahaffey, and implore everybody to contact their game fish and parks commissioners or even staff or even legislators to talk to them about the issue that we've been facing over the last several years. For example, for the last 6 years, I've personally been working on this issue. The South Dakota Bow Hunters Incorporated has submitted position papers on non-resident archery, deer, and antelope, as well as 4 separate years of petitions directly related to getting a handle on the increasing number of non-resident archery hunters for both deer and antelope. We've suggested things like, whitetail tags and the hunter in a higher number than mule deer or any deer permits that require a draw. We've suggested private and public land tags with various caps to draw from. We've suggested special buck permits for non-resident opportunities on private lands with reasonable caps. We've also pushed for zones or more limited access units with tighter controls for both residents and non-residents. Each of these petitions were killed unceremoniously by past commissions. We have tried many different options here. This proposal has all been created by the Game Fish and Park staff at the direction of the commission to fix the issue when we finally convince the commissioners using the statistical analysis that there is a huge issue. Some of the people in the state of South Dakota who profit from commercialization of wildlife, for example, they have kind of come out and labeled us as in SDBI as being anti-non-residents. That is not true. We've also heard from several individuals from states like Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, Michigan, Pennsylvania. Many of them have come out and said that, hey, darn it, this isn't fair. They're entitled to come here every year to South Dakota. And I even had a couple of different people tell me that I'm directly trying to screw them over from coming to South Dakota every year. Well, nothing could be further from the truth here, all right? All we're trying to do is attempt to protect our natural resources from the obvious overuse and overharvest by a segment of the population that doesn't even live here in the state of South Dakota. As a board, all 9 of us, past and present, we all hunt as non-residents in other states or have at one time or another. We've been accused of being hypocrites because we do that. Well, let's compare apples to apples here, folks. Here are the facts. Each of us has to buy a license to even apply in a lot of these other states, just for the purpose of building preference points and then put in for those draws with the privilege that those states' residents allow us to do. And that's how it works. Other states' residents make up laws, regulations, they set limitations based on what they want to allow non-residents to have an opportunity to harvest. Just as an example, 2 years ago, I cashed in 12 points to hunt mule deer with a bow in the state of Colorado. 12 points. All the while, every non-resident flowing into the state of South Dakota from the east can do it every single year without having to buy a basic hunting license, without having to buy preference points, and without having to draw. They just come every year. Enough. This has got to stop. There has to be some changes. You got to look at these facts and statistics, folks. And to the handful of some of these angry people that are shouting from the peanut gallery, let me ask you this, okay? Most of you are simply merely talking about your personal hunting, your personal issue for yourself, one person, or maybe a handful of buddies that, you come from Minnesota or Wisconsin or wherever you come from, all right? That's fine. I get it. You want to come here. We, SDBI, are fighting for our entire big game population, all of our wildlife resources, and the satisfaction and availability for 23,000 resident bow hunters. We're working for them, for all of us in the state of South Dakota, and our wildlife. It's a natural resource issue. Okay, South Dakota, all right? We remain on the very extreme low end of non-resident fees compared to other states with mule deer and antelope non-resident tags, $286. We're certainly not the cheapest, but we are on the low end of the medium range. South Dakota is the lone state that allows unlimited permits for non-residents to shoot deer, mule deer, and antelope in any form. No other state does this. This staff's proposal is appreciated, and we thank the staff for finally coming up with something that would provide some semblance of a limit on public land. That addressed some of the concerns that SDBI and many resident bow hunters have brought forward. But we have a few additional items and concerns that have not been addressed. The statistics from the South Dakota Game Fish and Park's own harvest reporting data support these proposed restrictions, but the proposal falls short. It doesn't do enough, especially on the proposed antelope license cap. The total hands-off approach on private land does absolutely nothing to curtail pressure and harvest on private lands. When it's unlimited, I don't know that we're really going to solve a whole lot with that. Again, South Dakota is the only state that still continues to sell unlimited non-resident statewide archery licenses for mule deer and antelope. With the changes that have been going on, say Nebraska, changes for the last several years in North Dakota, changes in states like Montana, Wyoming, South Dakota, if we don't make a change here, we're in danger of even becoming more overrun and unchecked with these harvest pressures as they skyrocket. The current proposal that the staff has brought out does very little to discourage someone from acquiring a private land license and hunting on public lands. That's illegal. And yes, I know we cannot legislate ethics, but the fine is a paltry like $130. We don't have enough conservation officers to check that. So the few people who would be lawbreakers, it's really easy for them to do. Not without a cap and draw. So we need to reconsider that. During the 10-year period included in the most recent archery deer study, non-residents purchased and pressure has increased from 3,128 to 5,851, over 87% in the 10-year study from 2021. It's even worse for pronghorn. There were 3,119 single archery tag antelope licenses issued. That's total. 2,142 were residents, 877 were non-residents. That extrapolates to 41% of all resident archery antelope licenses, which is over 500% of the 8% cap on rifle permits. That is a huge part of this. In 2022, the archery pronghorn tags jumped yet again from 877 to 1,048. That's a 20% increase of non-resident archery permits for antelope in 1 year. And still, they're unlimited and unabated. So we need to talk about these things. We need to think about them. We already have a statute in place. You heard me mention 8%. Why we mention 8% is because South Dakota already has a statute in place. It's a law that limits non-resident tags to 8% of resident firearms permits. So I'm talking about gun tags now. 8% for gun tags. That is the precedence. If we had the same precedence set for archery, we'd suggest 8% on the 3-year running average of resident permits. All right. If you use that 8% model, we're talking about 1,750 non-resident archery deer permits. Capped. Total 1,750. That's the 8% model for all archery permits. Public, private land, draw, whatever. We're not asking for that type of a restriction. On the antelope side, the 8% would equate to 171 permits for antelope. The proposal is close, all right? The proposal is close when we're talking about deer. The proposal is talking about 2,200 licenses, but it's only for public land. It doesn't limit private land. But it's 300% off of what it should be for antelope when we're talking about the 450 tags proposed for public land antelope. In 2021, for example, resident bow hunters took 560 mule deer bucks, while non-resident bow hunters killed 525 mule deer bucks. So of the entire 1,085 mule deer bucks reportedly taken by archery gear, non-residents accounted for 48% of the total archery mule deer buck kill. For example, one of the successes that SDBI has is we pushed hard and we got a true cap and draw limitation on Unit 35L, which is the Custer National Forest up in the northwest part of the state. What the Game Fish and Parks Commission decided at that time was that there would be a cap of 500 residents and 125 non-residents for the quota of drawing that access permit. Last year that it was surveyed, 2021, residents tagged 26 mule deer bucks in that area, while non-residents tagged 36 mule deer bucks. That access permit total needs to come down. It needs to be changed. Let me read that again. 500 resident permittees in that area killed 26 mule deer bucks, 125 non-residents killed 36 mule deer bucks. When we look at the tag breakdown, also on the 10-year study, tag success breaks down can also lead to questions on target selection. I mean, people are going to shoot what they want. It's legal. There's nothing wrong with it, but it leads to the question when we're looking at these statistics. Resident archery tag success in 2021 was 25%. So 25% of archery tags were filled by residents, while non-resident tag success was 37%, 12 points higher for non-resident bow hunters. There's a couple ways we can look at that. If you are a non-resident and you're hunting out of state, you're very proficient, you're very passionate, you know what you're doing, you're a better than average hunter. I totally get that. Also, though, you don't have really much at stake in the management of the resource. You've paid your money, you've taken a week's vacation, and you want to take something home. So that mule deer doe or that four corn or spike or a little 3x3 looks pretty good at the end of the hunt. Now, it's not illegal. It's legal. You have an any deer tag. But 37% success versus 25% success, that is a biological issue. Resident hunter and opportunity satisfaction should also be a priority here, while still providing reasonable access to non-resident public land hunters. We want you to come. We want you to have a good time. We just want there to be a reasonable cap and draw limit so that our resources are not hurt by this type of pressure. And when I say pressure, I mean harvest pressure. All right. This is a biological issue. 8% should be the standard for both non-resident archery and firearms permits, guys. Mule deer, antelope, white-tailed deer, they're harvested at a much higher rate for these when we're talking about non-residents. It's not just a public land satisfaction issue either. Land is being purchased up by non-residents, leased up, and the average resident is being crowded out far more frequently. And that's happening in every state. That's not just South Dakota, okay? Hunting costs money, and hunting land is valuable, all right? Our South Dakota wildlife, it should not be a data point for tourism entities to profiteer off of here in the state of South Dakota. We South Dakotans live here. We're here all year long. We spend our time and our money here every day. We live here for a reason, and it's not the weather, folks. We like our outdoor recreation. Please protect our wildlife for future generations, as well as South Dakota sportsmen first. So our suggestion to change the proposal that's in front of the commission on March 9th is let's fine-tune this proposal a little bit. Let's take it down to 2,000 non-resident archery deer permits and 200 non-resident archery antelope permits, which will be more in line with the 8% cap on the public land. When we're talking about the unlimited private land permits, it does make this proposal pretty ineffective, really, if there's no limit at all on private land. It makes it very hard to get anything done. So we propose an improvement with requirements for obtaining the private land only tag, which are already in place with the special buck tag structure. That'll discourage folks from hunting the wrong land types. Requiring the private land only tag applicants to include the landowner or operator's name with who they intend to hunt, and increasing the cost to $500 in line with our current special buck requirements. That would solve some of the enforcement concerns that we have on the back end and bring those tags in line with other states and other private land only buck tag requirements. That may have some effect at thwarting this huge tsunami, this wave of pressure that we continue to see over the years. We see this increasing each fall. So thank everybody out there. Please join the South Dakota Bow Hunters if you're not a member, and please contact the people who are making these decisions and ask them to please implement some common sense solutions to the pressure and overcrowding. Thank you.